Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Live here, and I am not alone. I'm joined by the venerable, the wonderful Felix.
Hello, it is I, Felix the Grand Man.
The Destroyer. So yes, Felix, you and I, it's no secret, we love Nintendo and we love our consoles, our Switch consoles, but we have a bit of a dark secret for some Nintendo fans, because we're both big old fans of our Xboxes, aren't we? We've both got a Series X, and, well, I know because you've already told me, but I know that I personally absolutely adore mine.
I mean, I really like my Series X. I've always been an only Nintendo boy, but I got my Series X just because I wanted to try, I wanted to play The Witcher in better graphics and stuff like that. And when I got my Xbox, it was like there was this thing called Game Pass Ultimate, and that's a great thing, right?
Yes, that's the main focus. So, we know, you can see from the title, it's a bit, you could look at hardware and stuff like that, but we're not going to be looking at that. We're going to be focusing mainly on sort of like services and business decisions by the two companies, and we're going to focus primarily on Nintendo Switch Online and Game Pass, specifically Game Pass Ultimate and Nintendo Switch Online with the expansion pack.
Yes, because they have their similarities, but they're also like very different in the way they do stuff. So there's also like a big difference in price points, but you get what you pay for. Sometimes you get even more than you pay for in some instances.
So let's we're just going to sort of do the surface level stuff with what you get. So when we refer to Nintendo Switch Online, we mean including the expansion pack. So if we ever just say Nintendo Switch Online, we're not talking about the base one, just to clear that up. So, with Nintendo Switch Online, with the expansion pack, you get selected NES, SNES, and N64 games available to play on your console, and they're there, downloaded. You can play them. You also get access to online functionality, as well as some DLC packs like the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe booster pack, course track thing, and also Animal Crossing Happy Home Paradise, and you get all that for $49.99 per annum. That's in US dollars, by the way. And I know the family plan exists and that makes it stupidly cheap, but we're going to look at the individual side of things today. However, Felix, why don't you take us through? What do we get with Game Pass Ultimate?
Well, on Game Pass Ultimate, we get all first-party Xbox titles. So you get Halo, first day. You get the new Starfield that's coming out. You're also going to get that day one on Game Pass. You also get It Takes Two, which won Game of the Year. That's on Game Pass. And there's
I
also
really
a lot
liked
of,
that game. I wasn't expecting great things, but it was free on Game Pass. And so I thought, I'll give it a go.
Yes.
And it was fantastic. I genuinely wouldn't have bought it otherwise. But it was there on Game Pass, so I played it. Had a grand old time.
But it's also great because there's a lot of games that I wanted to buy, but then, they're on Game Pass. One game, for example, is Hollow Knight. I've always wanted to try out Hollow Knight, but I was like, I'll get it sometime. And then I got Game Pass, and there it was. Okay, now I got to give it a go, and I absolutely loved it. And if it wasn't on Game Pass, I maybe wouldn't have played it yet.
Yeah, I'm just the same with a couple of games. Not loads, admittedly. There's well, then again, there's things like Psychonauts 2, which I was always keen to try out. And again, with Game Pass, it was just there and I could just download it. It wasn't like some, like cloud subscription service. I know xCloud exists, but, it wasn't. You download it, you play it, and it runs natively on your system. And that was just... It's just what I want. It is kind of like... I know people have likened it to kind of... It's sort of like a Netflix for gaming,
yes,
but without actually having to stream things, which... is better. Looking at you, what the hell is it? I've even forgotten what it's called, that Google thing.
Stadia?
Stadia, yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm not a huge fan of that, let's just put it that way. But it's not like that. So it really is kind of like, I suppose in some ways it's kind of like the ultimate rental service. You pay a baseline subscription and you get access to like 100 games for, the same flat fee. Plus you get access to they talk about all these perks that you get. I've never really done much with them. And it's like, hey, if you play a Game Pass game, a Game Pass game, you can get some points. And with that points, you can get like a Clip It Surface like enter a sweepstakes. That's what I did anyway. They called him Clippy, but that's not his name.
Well, it's like maybe not Netflix, but like Blockbuster. You like rent the games and you have the games physical, and then when you once end your subscription, you can't play them anymore. You have to turn them back. Oh well, they're still downloaded, but you can't access them.
Yeah, and I'm well aware. There is quite a substantial price difference because we haven't actually said how much a year of Game Pass Ultimate costs, because it's essentially $50 for Nintendo Switch Online with Expansion Pass. It is $180 pretty much. I mean, it's $179.88 per annum for Game Pass Ultimate. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, if you're going to be playing these games and you're more of a sort of a contemporary player, you play the latest games and then you kind of put them on, you put them in storage, or maybe you even trade them in or something like that. And you don't really sort of go back to old games, which is a fair enough way to play. It's not how I do it, but it's an option. You can get that back because standard release games are, we'll say $60. I'm not sure what it is on Xbox because I've got Game Pass Ultimate.
Yeah.
But we'll say $60 RRP or MSRP. $60, you only have to buy, you have to download on Game Pass 3 main, AAA games a year. That is not hard to do if you like your games.
No. A thing I find myself doing is that, for example, I really wanted to play The Witcher 3. It wasn't on there, so I got it on sale. So right now I'm playing that. So I actually cancelled my Game Pass Ultimate subscription because I knew that The Witcher is going to take up so much time. I'm probably going to play it more than a month. So I won't be needing Game Pass for that time. And then once I finish The Witcher and want to get back to some of the games on Game Pass, I'll just get it again. Where with Nintendo Online service, at least with the expansion, that's a whole year. You can't go in and out, which I think it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it is. I've not actually considered doing that. That's quite good. I've considered it with other services, never got round to it. But yeah, if you do have, I suppose, one big game, or say you're going to see a friend, or you're going traveling or something for a month, just, stop the subscription for a month and save yourself, admittedly, only $15, but it's $15 you might as well save, or whatever your equivalent local currency is. And I think the nub of all this is, I think gram for gram, Game Pass Ultimate is just a much, much better deal. If indeed all the Bethesda and Activision Blizzard games come for day one to Game Pass as well, I can only imagine that's going to increase the price. It must do, my God. But, Nintendo Switch Online, if I had to pay the full price, I wasn't doing the family plan, I probably wouldn't. I mean, I would for work, obviously, but I'm in a very different position. If I wasn't doing this, I might not do it, to be honest. I might buy a month if I could, and sort of see, hey, I can play Majora's Mask. But no, it's just not. I mean, I still don't think that it's necessarily terrible value for money, but Game Pass Ultimate is such good value for money. It's like the only subscription service that I can think of that is realistically really, really good value for money. There are no doubt others out there, and it comes down to a use case thing, Some people may well find things like Netflix really good value, but for me, it's okay. Game Pass is an absolute steal. I could easily spend £15 a month on games. It's not even £15 a month. It's like £10 a month here or something, or 12, whatever. I could easily spend that on Xbox games, but I don't have to. Admittedly, I won't get to own any of those games, but the games that I really want to own, I can then buy later down the line when they're hideously reduced in price. And it's not like I've had to wait to play the game. I can play the game day one, and then if I ever want to own a physical copy, I can do so when it's, £5 in Tesco or something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and if you don't even want to play online, there's also an even cheaper, just called Game Pass, not Ultimate. That is, I can't remember how much, but it's a bit bit more cheap, and
I
you
think
can't
it's
play
about
online.
$10 a month, yeah.
Yeah, it could be, but then you also don't get EA titles. But like, let's say you just want to play Hollow Knight on Game Pass, or you just want to play the single player mode on Halo. You can just get that one. Nintendo Online Service also has some different, without the expansion pack, and I think that's much better value for money, in my opinion, because that is very cheap for a year. And, you get online, which, I don't like paying for online, but it is what it is. And you also get some NES and SNES games. And I personally haven't had a NES or SNES, so I was really excited about that. It is nice to have Nintendo 64 games, but they are so select, and it's so expensive that I just think it's just not worth it. Also because the DLC, for example, with Mario Kart, I would much rather be able to, let's say the Nintendo Online service goes down one day, then what, I can't play the Mario Kart DLC? I want to own that. I want to be able to play that with my kids in the future.
Yeah, I've often wondered what's going to happen with that sort of thing, whether... I can imagine basically you just lose access, or the alternative is at the end of life, Nintendo just go, okay, yeah, no, we're pushing out a key or like an update that just makes it free for everyone, but then that would feel a bit, a bit bitter for anyone who'd actually bought it. It's a difficult one.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, but then again, I think the thing with me is that I think if Nintendo offered a similar service, it may not be quite as successful as Game Pass, because Nintendo's first-party games are fantastic, and if they just offered all their first-party games, they would probably make an absolute killing off that alone for the casual market. But the thing with Nintendo games is that people stick with them in a way that they don't in the same way with other systems. For some people, absolutely, but on the whole, Nintendo collections are substantially more common than, say, a big collection of PlayStation games or Xbox games or something like that. I think people value Nintendo games more. I think it's just an optics thing, but even so, would as many people be willing to not own these games?
It's not even that they have to have their first-party titles, but, something like the Virtual Console where you get, maybe now you have Wii games and GameCube games, just like... That was just such a good service, and if they could just do that again, I think a lot of more people would appreciate that, and maybe a lot of more people would actually buy it.
Yeah.
But then again, Nintendo also is now there buying a lot of game studios, like Microsoft are. They have the budget to back that, and it's an interesting strategy with Game Pass, because it doesn't seem very, good financial wise for them. Like, they could make so much more money, but it's just so nice for the consumer that they have this, and I hope that they can keep having this, that it's affordable for them.
I agree. I think I remember reading something somewhere where someone at Sony said that Game Pass isn't sustainable or something like that, which maybe, but admittedly, as much as anything, Sony doesn't know what Microsoft's profits in this area is, and we don't, so we can't possibly say. Maybe there are enough people who buy Game Pass Ultimate who wouldn't be playing these games otherwise, and maybe I'm one of them. Maybe I wouldn't be spending the equivalent on games for my Xbox if Game Pass wasn't a thing. I don't know, but It's certainly an interesting thought case, and with everyone going down the road of subscriptions, I can't say I'm surprised, but this is definitely one of the good ones, I think.
And I think it's like the deal is so good that everyone just like, I'm gonna do that. That's too good a deal to pass up upon, and maybe because the deal is so good, they have a substantial amount of Xbox, Game Pass Ultimate subscribers.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. I don't work at Microsoft, so...
Yeah. The thing is that there's a lot of the games that are on offer with Game Pass are games that are either older or, perfectly good games. Things like Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is it's not a new game. It's not super old either, but it may well be that it's kind of fallen off the radar for a lot of people. But if you've got this subscription, you're actively going to be looking at what is essentially a curated list of games And the companies must be making some money off them, because otherwise they wouldn't offer it up for Game Pass. So as a result, your game, if it's in Game Pass, stays more relevant.
Definitely. I mean, I wouldn't play, I don't know, there was this game called Splunky 2, which was on Game Pass that, it looked fun and I tried it out. I wouldn't have tried it out if it wasn't on Game Pass because I didn't want to spend my money on it. But now that it's essentially, it isn't free, but now that you have it, why not try it?
Yeah, absolutely. All of this talk is making me think in my head, what would I want Nintendo to do if they were to do something maybe not the same as Game Pass? Because I don't think they should do the same thing as Game Pass. I don't necessarily think it would work. I mean, maybe it would. I don't know. I'm not a business man. But if in my head, if Nintendo were to do something similar and take some notes from Microsoft, I would like to see them basically, I don't want to say like ROM dump, but basically take all of their own first-party and ideally some, third-party games as well from all their old systems. I'm talking NES, Game Boy, SNES, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Virtual Boy. Just, emulators, I'm sure they have emulators, or they could license emulators, make them run on Switch, stick the games out there, and make sure the emulation is consistent, at least passable. And I think, if they were to basically put their entire back catalogue on there and say, hey, there you go, it's, we'll say 70 or $80 a year or something like that. I would snatch that up. All of Nintendo's past titles available to play, not only on a home console, but on the go. You couldn't stop me. That would be fantastic.
I would love that, Alex. That sounds absolutely brilliant. But as we know, Nintendo, they can release a Wii game and charge $60 for it with, Skyward Sword. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even think they would necessarily have to stop doing that. I mean, they kind of did it with Super Mario 3D All-Stars in a way. With Super Mario 64, you've got the Shindo version, it's got all the updates and everything, shiny new icons, it is kind of an updated version. They could still do those. Okay, maybe you couldn't charge $60 for them, but, charge, sort of, hey, here's an HD version or remastered or whatever of any number, Wind Waker HD or something like that. You can play the GameCube original, but, it's a lower resolution, maybe 720p or something, and it doesn't run quite as well because it's not native and it's 4:3 aspect ratio. Or you can pay for kind of like the quote-unquote premium version, and bish bash bosh, you're still selling original versions of games and physically.
I really like your idea. I really wish it was like that. That's like the dream come true, really.
Yeah.
Also because I like the idea of NES and SNES and Nintendo 64 games. It's just not executed very well. It's like, why can't we have all the games? Why is it only select games and then there is a hiatus of like a month or two or even more before we get like 3 new games that a lot of people maybe not care about? It's like, I want to be able to play Paper Mario, that's on there. Shut up, Felix.
Keep that in.
But anyway, you get my point. You get my point.
Yeah, it does kind of take the wind out of certainly my sails, and I'm sure a lot of other people where, they have these gaps, they don't release any games. NES and SNES ROMs, which at the end of the day are not, they're not substantial pieces of media, really, I mean, some of them are, like the Final Fantasy games, absolutely, but overall, SNES and NES games, quite a few of them are, kind of arcadey style, which is great and fun. I really like that side of things. But waiting a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, a substantial amount of time between releases, and then for Nintendo to go, hey, you can play Jelly Boy now. It's not worth it, It's like, if it was just something, we're releasing, Jelly Boy, Earthbound, Breath of Fire 2, and Star Fox 2, everyone would be like, hell yeah, I'm up for that. A big substantial boom once a month.
Oh, yeah.
And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if they could probably get, reasonably good deals, because a lot of the old games like NES and SNES don't really pull in great numbers. They work with companies like Capcom and all this, so they could get all these old games. I reckon they could do it. I reckon they could do this, and I understand Nintendo is quite a reserved company in many, many ways. But I just think, I mean, you know, you could put bloody GameCube games up there and, oh no, this texture doesn't render properly, and it's like, okay, well, Nintendo may get round to fixing it. At the end of the day, it's one of, I don't know, 600 games that are available. You know, I think people would be much more forgiving if they weren't so particular about things. You know, it's like, hey, we're releasing 8 N64 games. I can't remember how many actually launched, but we're releasing 8, and the fog doesn't work in any of them. That's not great, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a big deal, but if they released like 30 and the fog didn't work, I think people would be much more forgiving.
But yeah, like you say, I actually think it was 9 games, but
oh,
when
do
there's
you?
only 9
oh, do
games...
you? It's not that I looked that up in a cut that you're going to cut out.
Shut up. But yeah, you expect them to have a bit more care put into the games, where if it was 30 games, then I at least would be more forgiving, and it was also like the whole expansion plus thing would be a much more bang for your buck.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, also, I think they could probably get away with unifying the whole thing under a single app. You know, not, you know, Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online, and Sega Mega Drive, Nintendo Switch Online, and all that sort of thing. They don't need to split them up. Just put them all in one app. Call it the Virtual Console.
Yes. And
be done with it, you know? You know, just have a Virtual Console app on there. Have access, you know, I mean, it would be a big app, don't get me wrong, but, you know, Christ, The Witcher 3's on the Switch, so who cares? And, you know, you could even specify, oh, you know, sort of, I don't want these, you know, sort of, you could specify games you don't want, and it would uninstall them or something to save space or something like that.
Maybe it should be like Game Pass, where it's all these games and then you can download them to your Switch.
Yeah, download them within the Virtual Console app.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Also, the UI in the Nintendo Online system is just it's a bit overwhelming, and if they just had it all in one, it would just be much better. Also, let me turn off the borders when I'm playing. Yeah. I hate that. I really hate that. That's like, why can't I turn this off? It's so simple, and it's just, it's so Nintendo.
There is this mentality that I feel with Nintendo, and it may well be just the way that we perceive it, or at least I perceive it, but Nintendo definitely has a sense of, we know better, we know what you want. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, they are absolutely right. You know, when I first heard about Breath of the Wild, I wasn't sure it was going to be good. When I first heard about, admittedly, it's not Nintendo, it's Game Freak, but Pokemon Legends Arceus, I was like, is it actually going to be good? And I'm pleased, you know, I just realized Game Freak's like the worst example, because they very rarely do anything outlandish, but even so, you know. And like Super Mario Odyssey, you know, sort of like capturing enemies, is that really going to be good, or is it going to be a bit sort of weak or something? You know, Nintendo, quite often, they have this, at least this perceived mentality of, we know what the audience wants, and a lot of the time, they're absolutely right. However, a lot of the time, they're also absolutely wrong, and I think this is one of those instances where Microsoft definitely has the edge over Nintendo, because either they're just listening to the audience, I don't know, or they do actually know what they want, and people want a wide selection of games, and they want them simply and affordably. And I think that's the reason, you know, why Netflix was originally so popular and now well, it's still popular, but now that there's all these different streaming services, people are, from what I understand, people are going back to piracy, because people just want an affordable, convenient way to enjoy their media. And that's something that I think is too often overlooked, and something that I think Nintendo hasn't completely managed to nail this time, at least with NSO.
It's also a bit hard because they are so good at making good games, and
they are.
It's like maybe they think, oh, we are so good at this, we don't need anyone to tell us how to do online. We know how to make games. We can also do this, and then they just don't know how to do it properly. At least it's very much behind, but That's Nintendo.
I would honestly love to be a fly on the wall who admittedly understood Japanese, who sort of hear the processes for these games, because no doubt there's something somewhere where the reason that they take these actions is entirely justified and sensible. But, it doesn't stop it being disappointing, but, there is probably a very sensible reason for a lot of the things, a lot of the decisions that go on. Or maybe not, who knows? But, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a rational decision. Maybe it's wariness overall, and not wanting to invest too heavily into something that could be a financial failure. Who knows? They've been burnt with the Wii U. Maybe they're just being a bit more careful.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what it is, but in all, Nintendo could just learn a little bit from Microsoft in the online, Game Pass subscription thing area, where with the games, just stay on course, Nintendo, you're doing wonderfully.
Yeah, no, I can't stress that enough. The games that Nintendo turns out, 9 times out of 10, if you'll pardon the pun, are 9 out of 10s, or 10 out of 10s. They are fantastic, and Nintendo makes, I think, genuinely, overall, probably the most consistently excellent games. And are they resting on their laurels a little bit? I don't know. But as I said at the start, as you said just now, I think Nintendo could learn a thing or two from Microsoft. So that's what we think. Let us know your own thoughts about this situation. Maybe you think Nintendo's doing brilliantly. Every opinion is valid. Let us know what yours is in the comments down below. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, then why don't you learn a thing or two from that subscribe button? And be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo-related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye-bye.
Hasta la vista, baby.